Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, for the opportunity to speak before you today in support of SB 589 and 590. My name is Keith Dygert, and I'm a resident of Branson, Missouri, and I have been for over 30 years now. I grew up across the lake from Kanakuk and Branson, the prominent Christian sports camp that's based in my hometown where I still live today. Every summer when I was a kid, all summer long, I could hear the cheers and excitement from Kanakuk echo right across the water into my backyard. Several kids from school went there every year, but it was always a little out of reach financially for my family for me to go myself. However, in 7th grade, I met one of the camp's directors at a local non-denominational youth group, which ended up actually becoming Kanakuk's parachurch ministry called K-Life. This director, named Pete Newman, quickly befriended me and gained my trust, and unbeknownst to me, was starting to groom me. He frequently took me to Kanakuk facilities and events, and it didn't cost a penny. It was a dream come true for me, except for the brainwashing that I was oblivious to, and then the consequential sexual abuse. Long story short, this went on for the rest of my adolescence. And then, one day, without really any warning, Pete basically went MIA. And then a little after that, news articles and coverage started coming out accusing him of grooming children and taking advantage of them. I was stunned and I was severely confused, as I couldn't even make sense of what I was hearing. I had loved, trusted, and respected Pete, so none of these accusations could even fit in my paradigm. Fast forward through months of counseling and only beginning to understand that I was actually a victim, I also inadvertently learned that Joe White, the CEO and owner of Kanakuk Camps to this day, along with other camp leadership, had caught Pete Newman engaging in naked and felonious acts with underage boys. This happened no less than on 3 separate occasions, and at least one of those occasions happened before I even personally met Pete. So just to reemphasize, Kanakuk had caught Pete naked with boys on 3 separate occasions. One of them, at least, happened before I even met Pete. Kanakuk was aware of this. Their leadership was aware of this. The public was not. They did not mandatory report this as they should have. Fast forward several more years, and now I was in a mediation room for a lawsuit against Kanakuk. There are lots of details, but for the sake of time, my honest and true belief, my testimony, is that I had no other option other than to settle with Kanakuk. And that settlement, the only way we could settle, was with the cost of signing an NDA. And that NDA has been a constant warning to myself about how much of my own story I can or cannot tell. My friends in the Alarcon family, they went through a similar lawsuit against Kanakuk, but they absolutely refused to sign an NDA. Kanakuk then sent their lawyers after them for refusing to sign. And then this already traumatized and tired family had to shell out $40,000 simply to defend themselves against a baseless claim. There's another friend of mine who didn't really start getting help processing his trauma until a little later in life. And as you'd have it, the sweet sickness of Kanakuk used its affiliation with my friend's therapist to conveniently dissuade my abused friend from ever considering justice through the legal system against Kanakuk for harboring pedophiles and hiding their abuse. This lasted long enough for this victim to age out of being able to pursue legal justice against Kanakuk. I was exhausted from a years-long legal pursuit. I was hesitant to share my story with my unavoidable NDA. The Alarcons were attacked for refusing to sign away their right to speak. And one of my best friends I grew up with couldn't even seek legal repercussions against the institution that empowered our common childhood sexual abuser. Please tell me which of these scenarios is an example of NDAs or statute of limitations working to protect our children and the public safety. The answer is none of them, and it's actually just the opposite. Kanakuk, who has harbored, protected, and empowered pedophiles and covered up the abuse, has only benefited from truth silencing NDAs and the statute of limitations that prevents more victims from calling to account Kanakuk's crimes. Common sense is a buzzword these days, but making the improvements imposed by SB 589 and 590 has to be just that, common sense. Thank you for letting me share some of my story with you today, and I urge you, I beg you, to see these bills through to law. It's the right thing to do. It's the good thing to do. It is the just thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and testimony today.